and you are training. It ain't my fault either. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere. I'm a piece of shit.
Freddie Roach was boxing's most demanding perfectionist, a relentless trainer whose obsessive attention to detail and uncompromising standards created friction with fighters who couldn't handle his intense coaching methods. The Wildcard Gym became famous for producing champions through brutal preparation routines and psychological pressure that separated serious athletes from casual participants seeking easier paths to success. Roach's approach involved constant criticism, repetitive drilling, and emotional confrontations designed to break down fighters' mental barriers.
It's vintage James Toney, and look at him land the uppercut. It is so hard to hit him when he's in this posture, and you see actually a lot.
While rebuilding their confidence through systematic improvement. His training philosophy demanded total commitment from students who had to surrender personal comfort for professional excellence under his watchful supervision and demanding expectations. Some boxers resented Roach's controlling nature and refusal to accommodate individual preferences that conflicted with his proven training methods. Others became frustrated with his perfectionist demands that never seemed satisfied regardless of their progress or competitive achievements. The worst conflicts arose when fighters challenged his authority or questioned his methods after achieving success through his guidance. Roach's personality clashes stemmed from his unwillingness to compromise professional standards for personal relationships, creating situations where talented fighters left his gym due to personality conflicts rather than training disagreements. His reputation for developing champions attracted elite athletes who sometimes discovered they couldn't tolerate his demanding personality and controlling approach to fighter development. We're examining 6 boxers who couldn't handle Freddie Roach's relentless pursuit of perfection and learned that training with boxing's most successful modern trainer required sacrificing personal comfort for professional excellence under his unforgiving supervision. 6. James Toney. Starting at number 6 is James Toney, the naturally gifted middleweight whose lazy training habits and resistance to structured preparation created immediate conflict with Roach's demanding approach to professional development. Toney possessed exceptional boxing instincts and natural ability that had produced success without requiring the kind of systematic preparation that Roach considered essential for sustained championship performance. The personality clash became obvious when Toney consistently arrived late for training sessions while showing minimal enthusiasm for conditioning exercises and technical drilling that Roach considered fundamental for professional improvement. Toney's casual attitude toward preparation conflicted with Roach's belief that natural talent meant nothing without corresponding work ethic and dedication to systematic skill development. Roach's constant criticism of Toney's preparation habits created tension that extended beyond normal trainer-student disagreements into personal conflicts about professionalism and commitment to excellence. Toney resented having his methods questioned by someone he considered overly demanding and unnecessarily controlling about training routines that he felt were excessive for his skill level. The relationship deteriorated when Toney began openly mocking Roach's perfectionist demands, while suggesting that his natural ability made intensive preparation unnecessary for continued success against inferior opposition. Roach viewed Toney's attitude as disrespectful and counterproductive to the serious training environment he tried to maintain for dedicated fighters seeking legitimate improvement. 5. Miguel Cotto. At number 5 is Miguel Cotto, the Puerto Rican warrior whose cultural pride and established training methods conflicted with Roach's attempts to modify his fighting style and preparation routines that had produced previous championship success. Cotto arrived at the Wildcard Gym with deeply ingrained habits and preferences that reflected his island heritage and traditional approaches to boxing development through different philosophical frameworks. The cultural clash intensified when Roach began suggesting changes to Cotto's fundamental techniques and strategic approaches that had been developed through years of successful competition under different training systems. Cotto viewed these modifications as implicit criticism of his previous accomplishments, while questioning whether Roach's methods were necessarily superior to approaches that had already produced championship results. Roach's insistence on implementing his systematic training philosophy created resistance from Cotto, who felt that his established success should earn him greater flexibility in determining preparation methods and strategic approaches. The trainer's unwillingness to accommodate Cotto's preferences created tension that affected their working relationship and training effectiveness. The conflict escalated when Cotto began questioning Roach's understanding of Puerto Rican fighting traditions and cultural elements that influenced his approach to competition and preparation. Roach interpreted this resistance as lack of commitment to improvement, while Cotto viewed the trainer's demands as disrespectful to his heritage and previous achievements. Fourth, Brandon Rios. Number 4 brings us Brandon Rios, the Riverside brawler whose undisciplined lifestyle and resistance to technical instruction frustrated Roach's attempts to develop his raw aggression into refined boxing skills through systematic training and strategic preparation. Rios possessed natural toughness and crowd-pleasing fighting spirit, but lacked the professional discipline that Roach considered essential for championship-level development. Roach's attempts to modify Rios's crude fighting style through technical drilling and strategic instruction met constant resistance from a fighter who preferred relying on natural toughness and aggressive pressure rather than developing sophisticated boxing skills. Rios viewed Roach's technical demands as unnecessary complications that would diminish his natural fighting instincts and crowd appeal. The relationship deteriorated when Rios began publicly questioning Roach's training methods, while suggesting that his street fighting background provided superior preparation compared to gymnasium instruction and technical development. Roach interpreted this attitude as disrespectful and counterproductive to the learning environment he tried to maintain for dedicated students seeking legitimate improvement. Their final confrontation occurred when Rios's unprofessional behavior and resistance to instruction began affecting other fighters who questioned why they had to follow strict protocols, while Rios received tolerance for behavior that violated basic training camp standards. Roach realized that accommodating Rios's attitude would undermine his authority and damage the serious training environment that attracted legitimate championship contenders seeking systematic development. Number 3, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. At number 3 is Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., the Mexican prospect whose famous surname and sense of entitlement created impossible expectations that conflicted with Roach's demands for earned respect through demonstrated commitment and professional excellence. Chavez Jr. arrived expecting special treatment based on his father's legendary status, while showing minimal dedication to the systematic preparation that Roach considered essential for legitimate championship development. The entitled attitude manifested through consistent violations of training protocols and professional standards that Roach maintained for all students, regardless of their background or promotional value. Chavez Jr. treated the Wildcard Gym like a social club rather than a professional training facility that demanded sacrifice and dedication from everyone seeking legitimate improvement through systematic work. Roach's attempts to hold Chavez Jr. accountable for his preparation and professional conduct met resistance from someone who believed his famous name should provide immunity from criticism and demands for improved behavior. The young fighter's attitude reflected broader problems with privileged athletes who expected success without corresponding effort or commitment to excellence. Their relationship ended when Roach realized that Chavez Jr.'s attitude was poisoning the gym environment for dedicated fighters who were working seriously toward legitimate goals. The trainer understood that tolerating entitled behavior would damage his reputation and undermine the systematic approach that had produced numerous champions through demanding standards and uncompromising expectations for professional excellence. 2. Amir Khan. Number 2 is Amir Khan, the British speedster whose stubborn refusal to address obvious defensive weaknesses created constant frustration for Roach, who watched his student ignore fundamental advice about protection and ring safety. Khan possessed exceptional hand speed and offensive ability, but demonstrated alarming vulnerability to power punchers that required systematic correction through defensive drilling and strategic modifications. The coaching conflict centered on Khan's resistance to defensive instruction and ring positioning adjustments that Roach considered essential for career longevity against elite competition. Khan preferred relying on speed and offensive output rather than developing the protective skills that would allow him to survive against powerful opponents who could end fights with single shots. Roach's warnings about Khan's defensive liabilities met consistent dismissal from a fighter who believed his speed and offensive ability could overcome any protective weaknesses through superior activity and conditioning. Khan viewed Roach's defensive concerns as overly cautious and potentially harmful to his natural fighting instincts and crowd-pleasing style. The relationship became increasingly tense as Khan suffered knockout defeats that validated Roach's warnings while the fighter continued resisting systematic defensive improvements that could have prevented future disasters. Roach watched helplessly as his predictions came true while Khan maintained his stubborn approach to preparation and competitive strategy. Their final separation occurred when Khan began blaming Roach's training methods for his knockout losses rather than accepting responsibility for ignoring fundamental defensive instruction and safety protocols. Roach realized that Khan's unwillingness to address obvious weaknesses made their continued partnership impossible and potentially dangerous for the fighter's long-term health and career prospects. 1. Manny Pacquiao. And finally at number 1, the most heartbreaking separation of all, Manny Pacquiao, whose gradual drift away from Roach's influence represented the ultimate betrayal of loyalty and systematic preparation that had created one of boxing's greatest championship runs. Pacquiao's transformation from dedicated student to distant superstar demonstrated how success could corrupt the trainer-fighter relationship through outside influences and changing priorities. The deterioration began when Pacquiao's expanding entourage and business interests started interfering with training camp preparation and strategic planning that had produced their greatest victories together. Roach watched his influence diminish as advisors and hangers-on gained access to his fighter while undermining the systematic approach that had created their mutual success. Pacquiao's religious awakening and political ambitions created additional distractions that affected his commitment to the demanding preparation routines that Roach considered essential for continued excellence against elite competition. Their relationship ended when Roach realized that Pacquiao had chosen outside influences over the systematic preparation and loyal guidance that had created his legendary status, proving that even the strongest trainer-fighter partnerships could be destroyed by success and the corrupting influence of fame, money, and political ambition. From entitled attitudes to heartbreaking betrayals, Freddie Roach discovered that demanding perfection creates powerful enemies. Even boxing's greatest trainer couldn't control every ego or prevent success from corrupting loyalty. Which separation shocked you most? Subscribe for more wild-card gym revelations and training secrets.